Welcome back to the SUTV show. The international break is in the rearview mirror. It's now all about the business of the Premier League and a huge clash against Bournemouth at Bramall Lane this weekend. We'll be looking ahead to that in this week's show. We'll also be joined by Jaden Bogle. And don't forget, you can hear more from him ahead of the game on Saturday in the SUTV show podcast. But before we go down that road, I'm delighted to welcome back to the show Carl Asaba.
Yep, thanks for having me back.
I'm delighted you could find time to join us after your European vacation. Well rested?
It's my first port of call, this.
We'll remind you of that when those nights get longer and the days get shorter and colder as well. But there's nothing to warm the heart like a full house at Bramall Lane. We saw that obviously in the victory against Wolves, and that was followed up by a hard-earned point going into the international break against Brighton. You were there at that game. You saw the performance in person, Carl. Just what will that have done for this squad?
Yeah, I think so far this season we've had matches where we deserved a lot more, and we've been in and we've come away with nothing. The belief is there now that they can take what the Premiership has to offer. And you know, Brighton are one of the best teams. They've done incredible the last two seasons. They started the match like a house on fire. They were electric. The wingers were just flying. And they got an early goal. But the boys have got to believe, you know, they didn't crumble, they didn't go within themselves. We've heard from the manager that, you know, whatever we were trying to do to adjust our formation to counter their good play, they were adjusting as well, and they were countering it. And it was a real match where we were trying to stay in. You know, it wasn't our best first half with the ball, but the boys were working hard, and you had Harmer, who I didn't think it suited him. But he's working his socks off for the collective goal, you know, and it wasn't a match where you got stunning performances from the boys but they did enough to keep in the game. And second half, we did come out a better team. We did make adjustments. We did start imposing ourselves. Vinny went off, and then you got the big man Ben Osborne come on, and he really transformed the performance. You know, his work rate, his actual endeavour on the ball, and his turn things and got us going. Then there was obviously the horrendous red card. You know, I've seen people trying to defend it. It was just a shocking red card, and from that moment on, you know, it's still not easy to win. You know, lots of teams, when you get the ascendancy and you have the extra man, they don't know what to do, but our boys really, they took it on. You saw some great play, and we were very unfortunate not to come away with the 3 points.
I can assure you now, Ozzy's going to love being referred to as the big man. He might not be the biggest in stature, but he had a big impact on that performance against Brighton. And the other word that's crept up on a number of occasions this season, certainly from the manager when he's been trying to talk up this team, is character. I wonder how much the manner in which we got the victory against Wolves played into the character we then saw in the fight back against Brighton as well. Those performances have unquestionably given these players belief.
Yeah, and I think some of what's been going on in the mass media against us, you know, they haven't given us credit for some of the performances the boys have put in, and some of the periods of play. You know, there's fantastic football. The boys have done really well, and they must have the siege mentality, because, you know, I mentioned it on Twitter, and I don't actually advocate it, but what's gone on towards our club and our management over this season, of us being on the bottom and we're this and we're that, you know, no one said a word about Vincent Kompany. I don't want people picking on the manager, but you know, if you're going to do it to one team and put that team under the microscope and put the intense pressure on them, surely, you know, when another team takes over at the bottom, you focus on them. But we haven't seen that, and I just think the character in the group is coming through. The boys have gelled. You've got big characters coming back into the dressing room and into the team. You've got Boulders coming in, and I think, you know, this is a good set of players. You've got injuries coming back and some serious players coming back, and I feel they're galvanised, and you know, they've got real belief in themselves.
And on that note, Max Lowe's another player that's been dealing with a few injury issues this season. He was on the bench against Brighton as well. When results start turning and going your way, and you start getting reinforcements as well, it all adds to that feel-good factor.
Yeah, of course, and you know, we're getting key players in our attacking this formation are the wing-backs. And Max Lowe suffered a freak injury. Who steps on a nozzle head and does his ankle? It's been so unfortunate. He is a big player because I don't think many people can cover the ground he does. He gives you an outlet going forward. You know, we've all seen his recovery going backwards, the amount of attacks that he actually comes from nowhere and gets involved and stops. So even if he doesn't start, the fact that he's added to the group, it adds pressure on the player in that position, and we get some improved performances from competition itself.
Yeah, and another player we've seen come back in recent weeks, Jaden Bogle, was instrumental in the scoring of that equaliser against Brighton, and I would like to say he joins us now on the SUTV show. Well, Jayden, great to have you on the SUTV show. 2 weeks to reflect on some good form for the Blades going into the international break. So has it been a good 2 weeks, or frustrating that you can't just get on and pick up where you left off?
Yeah, no, it's been a nice 2 weeks, a chance to reset, but go into the next block of games with the same intentions that we finished the last few in. So, yeah, I think we're all excited for the game coming up and winning another big performance.
Obviously, it was a big moment to get that first win at Bramall Lane. Then you go to Brighton, again as a team show the character to come from behind, get something from it. What difference has that made to you and the rest of the lads?
Yeah, I think it's helped us obviously pick up points, and how we're approaching the games, not just first half but second half as well, and maintaining that throughout the whole game, and it gives yourself the best possible opportunity to get something from the games, and I think we've showed that in the last two, and got deservedly points.
But has self-belief been high, even though the points hadn't been coming? Some of the performances against, you know, well-established Premiership players and teams, you know, we showed that we're able to play at that level. Yourself, you know, you're going past people, you're scoring, you're creating chances. Is confidence still high in the dressing room, even though the points weren't there at the start?
Yeah, the confidence was definitely still there. It was just more a bit of frustration. When you look at games like the Tottenham game, for example, a big opportunity there, and a few other games where we've had big opportunities to pick up some points and haven't quite got there. But the main switch has been doing it for 90 minutes and not just the first half or just the second half. We need to put the performances together for.
What was it like, you know, your first game back after the injury, Man City? What was that like? Were you just running on adrenaline? How was that?
Yeah, no, that was just relief, man, because I'd obviously been out injured.
Had you targeted that game as your comeback, or was it just it was lucky that it fell like?
It was in between them few weeks, but luckily enough it come to that game, and even though we didn't get the win or the points that we wanted, personally it was a nice feeling to go.
Talk us through that goal against Manchester City though, because there seems to be a whole lot of emotion that came out after that.
Yeah, it was just, again, relief, and obviously joy, and celebrating that in front of the fans as well. So yeah, it was a great feeling for me.
It seems to have been a learning curve, at times a steep learning curve for you and the team this season. Do you feel you're in a better place now, though, than when you were when you kicked off?
Yeah, obviously you got points on the board, you're always in a much better place. But it's about putting more performances together now and picking up more points in the next block of games.
What's it been like with having the confidence to attack? Because, you know, some of my favourite moments of the last two seasons have been you in the final thirds. You know, your feet are incredible, and you know the goal away at Reading, just brilliant. What's it been like to from the management to give you the confidence to attack? Because we're playing away at Brighton, one of the best teams over the last couple of years, and you're creating goals and you're taking chances. Are they really just completely boosting you up in the changing rooms?
Yeah, I think it's the same with everyone, no matter who plays in that role. I think the aim is, as a wing back, to go forward and try and create as well. Obviously, you've got your defensive duties to do, and then non-negotiables, but getting forward and creating things in the box is what we need from everyone, and not just the wide players as well, the midfielders getting into the box, and obviously the strikers as well.
What about one of shooting? You've had more shots this season than I've seen in the last year. Is that something you've consciously worked on during the closed season, that I'm going to take more? Because when you're in the final third, you know, you really are a weapon. So have you got it in your head now that I'm going to take more shots?
Not really. I just seem to keep popping up in the areas where I get a good sight of goal. And I just think if you hit the target, there's enough bodies in the box that even if it's not going directly and it'll come off someone else, similar to Brighton, I just thought if I can hit this towards the goal, even if it doesn't go in, there's bodies in there which you can get something from. So yeah, just pop up in them areas and try and hit the target, basically.
Yeah, and if you're not going to take shots on goal, you're not going to score, are you? Let's look ahead then to Bournemouth this weekend, because we all know how big it is in terms of the league table itself. Is that key going into it, that you don't build it up in your own mind to be bigger than it actually is?
Yeah, I think don't put too much pressure on ourselves, but at the same time we know it's a massive game for us, and we need to go and perform, and we need to go and put like the last two performances that we had, we need to go and put similar ones out against Bournemouth as well, because they'll be a good side. They'll have energy, but we need to match that and be better.
And tell us a bit about Paul Heckingbottom, the manager, because I was up close to the dugout for that win against Wolves, and in 60 seconds he's going from losing his mind to pure ecstasy. Is he more level-headed behind closed doors, or did that really sum him up in 60 seconds?
Yeah, he is very level-headed, but again he expects a lot from us, and it's nothing more than what we can do, and it's about putting his expectations out on the pitch and delivering for him. As any manager, you can have a pop-up player sometimes, but that's what you need, and that's what players like from a manager. When things are going well, you get told that you're doing well, and when you're not so great, you need to liven up a bit, and yeah, it's got a great balance of it.
Key to stay on the right side of the boss, isn't it?
Yeah, always, yeah.
All right, Jayden, great to have you with us. Best of luck this weekend. Let's hear from the man himself now. Here's Paul Heckingbottom with his thoughts ahead of this weekend's game.
Let me ask you, first of all, 2 unbeaten now on the trot going into the international break. Does that change the mood around the place?
Yeah, I think it did. I think one thing we've tried to do and be prepared for is try and keep how we work in the environment and the mood the same. But it's tough. Results do dictate, because externally it has a massive impact, and then what people say about you has an impact. So yeah, results will always be the biggest factor, and they'll always add that belief and to any message that you're trying to get across. So yeah, it's really important that we picked up a couple of positive results before this break.
Being greedy, you could have had 3 at Brighton, couldn't you?
Yeah, listen, we started the second half well, imposed ourselves on the game much more. We were on the back foot in the first half. Brighton played well. Whatever we did, they adapted. The second half, I felt we really started to impose ourselves in the game, and then when we scored straight after the sending off, we were in the ascendancy and wanted to capitalise, and we had a couple of good moments, but the biggest moment was some good play that fell to Jayden, and that would have been it would have been a hard-fought win. Brighton would have said that their first half performance should have seen them get the 3 points, but the fact we stuck in, we gave ourselves the biggest chance, and then we came off probably the most disappointed. You
must be on tenterhooks, are you, during this period? You've got your spies out, checking on people.
Yeah, I generally like it when the players go away. I think it's great recognition for them. Listen, I'm a huge England fan, so I love it when watching the international games, and so I think representing your country is the biggest honour. But from my point of view and our point of view, we need to be selfish and pray and hope that they all come back fit and healthy. And we've suffered a couple of times in the last couple of years, particularly early on this season, where 4 players returned and were out of action for a good length of time. So yeah, fingers crossed we don't see that again.
Do you feel you've turned a corner as a team, that the players are up to speed now, perhaps with the Premier League, that they're fitter, they're ready, they know what to expect?
No, look, we lost a couple of players before the first game of the season, which massively hindered the team we could put out in the first couple of games. But then we recruited towards the back end of the window. Training standards improved. Everyone could see what we were trying to do, and there's a better feeling about the place. But obviously we'd lost a few games. However, we didn't get the results that 1 or 2 performances probably deserved at that time, and then that affects you, whether it's belief, whether it's a confidence, but certainly what other people are saying about us, because we've still not got the win. Me personally, I knew there were reasons why we'd started slow and why it was tough. But now because we've brought so many new players into the Premier League, not just into English football, but into the Premier League as well, they've experienced winning with us, they've experienced how we want to play. So we can only be better for it. It's just a shame that we couldn't sort of capture that feeling and those performances earlier on.
So Bournemouth next at Bramall Lane, and I guess we saw last time out what they can do against a top 6 club.
Listen, they're a dangerous team. they'll probably say, similar to us, that they could have, would have, should have had more points. But you're judged on the results. But I thought, yeah, the last performance against Newcastle, they were really strong. Got on top in lots of different areas of the game, which Newcastle have been really good at throughout the season. They've been a team who's really been able to dominate opponents, but Bournemouth didn't allow them to, and they played on the front foot and were in charge of vast amounts and periods of that game. So yeah, we know we're playing a tough team with good players. We know a lot of the players, but we have to make it as tough as possible as we can for them and show what good players we've got in the team.
It's all set up for a big afternoon, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so. We want a big game. We want a big game atmosphere, a big game feeling, and I certainly enjoy the big games, and I enjoy us playing positively and bravely in big games.
How important is the next month up to Christmas, say?
I think they all are. I think no matter who we're playing, we have to see it as an opportunity to get points. We've already shown that we've been so close from taking points away from two of the biggest, the informed teams this season in Spurs and City, and so it's irrelevant who we play. We want to get ourselves in a position to pick up as many points as possible. Sometimes we know we're not going to be there. Other times we need to make sure we're in that position ready to capitalise if we can then get on the front foot to dominate, or if someone is having an off day and we can capitalise.
So the manager talking about the big game atmosphere, how much he enjoys it. We saw it a few weeks ago at a sold-out Bramall Lane against Wolves. It's going to be a full house again for another massive clash against Bournemouth, and without doubt the fans have their part to play as well.
A massive part. We say week in, week out just how huge the atmosphere is part of a game experience at Bramall Lane, and it really is. The players draw off it. It makes it harder for the opposition to play. The fans, they're right behind the team. They know what's been going on off the field and the stick we've been getting, and it is, it's like one unit just going for the victory and going for the points. So now I'm expecting a really good atmosphere, and it's going to need to be. This is a tough opposition we're up against.
Yeah, they've turned the corner, haven't they? Much like the Blades, we talk about Sheffield United having 4 points out of their last 6. Bournemouth come into this with 2 wins from their last 3, and one of them obviously going into international break, albeit against an injury-depleted Newcastle side, still a good Newcastle side.
Oh, it's still a win. It doesn't matter who you're playing against in the Premiership. Newcastle, if they're putting in players to replace injuries, they're putting in top players. So no, Bournemouth will be coming into, hopefully, I'm hoping they're going to come in with arrogance and cockiness and think they're going to walk over us, because we know what we've got with the boys. We've got injuries coming back. I'm really intrigued to see what the starting lineup's going to be, because you've now looking at not what can be fielded. The manager can actually pick and choose. Actually, I can use him, but no, I want this person's attributes. So now competition's coming in, and some management to play directly against our opponents. So it's exciting.
Their main threat would appear to come in the form of striker Dominic Solanke. He's got 7 goals in all competitions this season. As a former striker yourself, what do you see in him, and what does Sheffield United need to be wary of?
Well, he's a real handful. He's dynamic, he's strong. He's caused us problems in the games we've played against him, but this will be a match where Trusty and Robbo, they'll be relishing this. They'll want to be playing against a striker who's in form, just to impose themselves and knock him out of his stride. So it's going to be a good challenge, but what's helpful is the boys know him. They played against him, and they'll be very respectful of his qualities, but they'll be well aware of them. So they will have been setting up for the last 2 weeks to combat him.
When we spoke to Jayden, one of the things I put to him was, how do you stop making this a bigger game in your own mind than it actually is? Of course, we're outside the dressing room. We can talk a bit more freely in the context of the games that this one comes in, with Burnley on the horizon as well. How important is this one?
My stance is every game's a cup final. That's the mentality. So he doesn't want to talk to me because I'll be heaping too much. But that's
the point, is the fans are going to turn up. There's going to be a sense of expectation, and it's at Bramall Lane.
But you've got to understand, all those players in the dressing room are well aware of this. They don't need you and me saying, "Oh, it's a big game." This is their lives. This is everything. Every training session they put in, every bit of food that they watch in their diet to make them the best they can be, is to play in the Premier League. They're turning up and they're going to acquit themselves. So they're well aware of how big a match it is, but it's another match which they will apply themselves the very best. You know, I'm one of these people. I know what a professional goes like and how they deal with a football match. No one takes them lightly. They know that these are huge occasions, and you know, I just hope there's a big moment early on, a Robbo tackle, because when the Sheffield United fans engage, it's one hell of an atmosphere, and we've seen it a couple of times this season. So
and we heard it from Paul Heckingbottom, didn't we? You almost sensed it in our chat building up to this game. He's wanting the fans to bring the noise. Yeah. He wants it to be a cauldron at Bramall Lane. He wants Bournemouth to be intimidated.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's two sides of that. Fans need to be ignited. You know, fans turn up wanting to win. They want to scream. They want to cheer.
Well, if Cam Archer scores another thunderbolt early on.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. You're going into these games now. You're seeing we've got people with pure Premiership class who can score out of the blue. You know, Cameron's scoring 30 yards past where I'd be shooting. You know, I'll be running for another 20 yards before I take a shot. But we've got this level of player now. You've got Harmer who can bang it in from. You've got Bogle who go past people and cross it in. And you know, do you see McAtee's goal in the international goal? We've got really good players. So now I'm understanding more how the management are setting up. That the longer we stay in the game, it's not like we have to overpower a team and win it. If we can stay in it, we've got match winners who can do the...
Well, I was going to say, final thoughts ahead of this game. How does Sheffield United need to set out? What's the key to victory?
For me, any Sheffield United victory, it's the key is work rate, desire, and with this team, you've got match winners in the team. You've got people who can do something from nothing, but you must have your desire and the work rate to counter your opposite number, because I do now believe we've got players who can win a game out of the blue. So as long as you match the opposition with your work rate and desire, you've got someone who can score something out of the blue.
Confident?
Excited and confident.
Excited and confident, says Carl Asaba. As always, Carl, thanks very much for your time. Next week, you can join us as we look ahead to the trip to Turf Moor when the Blades play Burnley. Before that, of course, though, it's Bournemouth at Bramall Lane. Don't forget, the SUTV post-game show, myself and Carl Asaba will be at Bramall Lane, breaking down all the events from Saturday afternoon. Until then, it's goodbye for now.